Listen, our BMAC not very happy that we stole his cookies. We're pretty happy. Each one of us is, well, sorry, Damien, you didn't get a chance to try, but they were really good. The cookies were better than a lot of the coaching we've seen to this point of the season. And of course, we know there are several coaches on the hot seat. So let's break down our concern when it comes to some of those coaches. And we are going to start with a kind of a surpriser, guys. Aaron Glenn out with the New Jersey Jets, but you know what I mean, with the Jets. And it's interesting when we talk about Aaron Glenn, because I think coming into the season, he was the one new coach where everybody felt confident with, right? He's going to an organization that he's familiar with, his mentality, the way he coaches, Pete, and yet here they are. They have still not won a game this year, and even worse than that, the effort just doesn't look like they want to win football games.
The effort was a little better today, I'll give them that, but the end of the half was one of the most confusing things I've ever seen in an NFL game by a coach. You fake a punt on 4th and 1 to pick it up, and then you don't go. You know, they ran out the clock. You're almost at midfield. Try and go get points. It made no sense. And even Garrett Wilson went over to him after, as they went in at halftime and started like saying something to him. It just doesn't seem like he understands game and analysis of the game in the moment. I think Aaron Glenn, and by the way, I'm one of those guys that says, anybody who says it's time to get rid of Aaron Glenn, that's just stupid. It's absurd. Let him coach the season. Find out who he is before you start making those assessments. But the in-game decision-making lacked in that moment for me. And I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but for me, it lacked. And I think that's just compounding the problem. He sits there at times and you wonder if he understands what's going on during the game. And this guy's been in the league. He's been a defensive player. He's been a great defensive coordinator. You know, it's just, there's more. Here's the thing. And you guys know, you've been around this game a long time. Guys have to learn how to be a head coach. You're not calling defensive play. You're not just a defensive coordinator anymore. You got to learn to be a head coach, and I don't think he's learned how to be a head coach yet.
I don't think he has either, and I do want to start this by saying I agree with you. I think firing him at this point would be stupid, and it wouldn't get the New York Jets anywhere further than they are now. But to piggyback off of some of Pete's points, when I think of Aaron Glenn, a reason why I was confident that this was going to work is because he seems like a player-type coach, type of player that has such a close relationship with his players that you don't even have to worry if he can motivate them to go out and play with effort and play with a type of energy that can't be matched. And we're not seeing that. But what's more surprising for me is he's a defensive guy. When you look at this Jets defense, you see a lack of tackling, which is absolutely inexcusable, especially in the National Football League. We see scheme that isn't working. We see players that aren't playing their techniques and their gaps and the way that they're supposed to play. And I just wonder why. Because, again, he's a defensive coach. I know that he's loved in this locker room. Forget that situation with him and Garrett Wilson on the sideline. Those players love Aaron Glenn because he is a player's coach. So I just think when you look at the way that they're playing, the effort that they're playing with, the scheme or lack thereof that they're playing with, you have to point the finger on the head coach. Is it time to fire him, though? No. Let him finish the job.
Let me ask this, because as you were talking, I know, Rand, you've got some thoughts on this as well, but I immediately went to the situation with your Patriots last year, right, where Gerard Mayo was brought in as the head coach. Obviously, circumstances were a little bit different, but at the end of the day, Gerard Mayo did not do a serviceable enough job to keep that head coaching spot. As a result, he was let go after one season. Rand, is there a world where you can see that happening with Aaron Glenn, or you think that they just need to continue to give him more time and hopefully this just sorts itself out?
No, I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens. And here, the Jets have a history of having turnover at this position, and yet here we are again questioning. I think coming into the season, because it was Aaron Glenn, his history with the organization, his history as a defensive coordinator and coach and scout in this league, it came with a little more oomph behind it, right? The hiring. But let's be honest, this team has been void of talent, and it wasn't going to get fixed in this first year. So I think you allow him and GM Darren Muji more time to build their program. You guys have hit on the defense and where you saw the defense, because the majority of the talent on that team was on the defensive side of the football. But for me, I walk away from this week feeling like they don't have direction on offense. Because you have a new OC, but then you have a quarterback, and we saw how they looked in week one, was like, whoa, don't take, you should take the moral victory. They put up points, and this offense looked good with Justin Fields. but it was like when Justin Fields left and he came back, this offense hadn't been the same. And so they need direction in terms of how are you going to play Justin Fields. And then you have Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is frustrated because he is being paid like an elite receiver, but not having the opportunity to play like an elite receiver. Teams are taking him out of the football game just by matching their number one receiver, their number one corner over there, and they're not going to him. So even from a Justin Fields standpoint, to watching his throws today, he wasn't anticipatory. He wasn't on time. It was like he had to see the guy open to get the ball there. And we know with a guy like Patrick Surtain II, you can't be late with the football. But to me, this team and this offense don't have any direction.
9 sacks. They got sacked 9 times. I mean,
with a mobile quarterback.
And well, he held the ball about in 4 of them. So, I mean, he's responsible for a couple of them, but terrible.
Yeah, not looking good for the Jets, not looking good for the Ravens either, and it's hard to fathom that John Harbaugh is on the hot seat, but Pete, it kind of feels that way, at least to the fan base.
Well, and talking to people up in Maryland, you hear it. It's coming. People are calling for John Harbaugh. They're saying it's gotten stale, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think you could have the reincarnation of Don Shula, Bill Belichick all together in one, and you're not winning with this group the way it is right now. But when Lamar Jackson gets back, if he's the same Lamar Jackson and that schedule softens and they don't start winning games, then you're going to have that conversation. I don't know if you would make that move, but maybe if it gets stale, and you've been around this, and you played for a coach where it got stale, and they fired him. They say everybody gets hired to get fired, and at some point he will be fired. I don't think now is the time.
And you got to obviously take into account the injuries. I know it's no excuses. You play the game that you're dealt, but it is certainly tough sledding. Feels a little isolated there for Jim Harbaugh and the Ravens. I do want to talk about Brian Callahan and the Titans. Just when we thought that the Titans were ticking in the right direction, guys, they kind of fall on their face again. And what was that? Oh, you guys are too
This is when you can actually intercept. It goes right over the top.
Watch this. I'm about to lob my question to Damien. We're going to hopscotch around here. Take me just inside, I guess, the locker room. I mean, when you've got a coach, I'm sure Brian Callahan is a really nice guy, but the reality is he is not helping you win football games. What is that like from a player standpoint and from your analyst standpoint? Is this a job for Brian Callahan?
Well, this is like a conversation that Pete and I had before the show, and it went a little something like this. Everybody loves the backup quarterback. They're your best friend until they actually have to go in and win you a football game. So I compare that to Callahan and saying, yeah, the players might love him. He might be a nice guy, but at the end of the day, they want to win because they know if they're not winning, they're not going to get paid. Everybody is going to get fired. So as much as you love a guy, as much as you want a guy to be successful for your team, you have to be a little bit selfish sometimes and realize, again, this NFL business that we have, it stands for not for long. My window of opportunity is so small, so I need to maximize that, and I would rather maximize that with a guy who's a dictator that helps me win football games as opposed to a nice guy who we can't really win with.
All right, and we'll put a bow on that conversation and move on by talking about Brian.
What a leap. We're
going to leap right on to our final coaching conversation here. And
Rand, jump on in.
It's the other Brian, which, Rand, I would love for you to talk about, Brian Daboll, because it is so funny to see just the difference in energy now that he's got a quarterback who can actually keep him in games. He got a little wild there Thursday Night Football, going in the medical tent, demanding the doctors get his guy. So obviously there's still some things that you got to act like you've been there before. But did Jackson Dart, how much did it save Brian Daboll from the hot seat? Did it save it at all? How are you feeling about Brian Daboll's status as a head coach going forward?
I think adding Jackson Dart, adding Cam Scatterbo to this lineup has helped reignite this Giants team and the fan base for that matter. So Brian Daboll, I want to have me a coach that looks at me the way Brian Daboll looks at Jackson Dart.
He loves Jackson Dart.
And he had, I don't know if it definitely wasn't a coach-player moment. That was a father-son moment of him running to the tent to check on his baby the other night.
Well, he saw Russell Wilson. He saw 2 plays with Russell Wilson, and he was like, my boy, we need you.
And I'd have pulled him out of there, too, if I saw Russell Wilson go back out there.
Stop. But I think this is why they went up to go get the kid, right? And there were a lot of questions as to why and who they passed on and all those things. We won't go down that road. But this is why they did it. Brian Daboll has a quarterback now that he believes can run everything he wants to do offensively, and not only the quarterback but the running back has infused not only this offense but this entire team with energy, and now it has the fan base excited. And so I think he's safe. Now we have to play out the rest of the season and see how it goes, but I think at this day and time, the end of week 6, he's safe.
Better boost for that offense, Cam Scatterbo or Jackson Dart?
No, Jackson Dart. There's no question about it. And by the way, Jackson Dart is going to be the reason that Brian Daboll is back, because you're not going to want to make a change with the offense. And he's brought life to this team. And he still runs way too much. He still doesn't allow plays to develop, but he's brought life to the team, and he's going to save Daboll's job.
All they do is just bang their heads together and run into walls and shake their head.
Somebody said they communicate like pit bulls.
This is the Giants' backfield.
That's it. There's some weird stuff going on in New York, but it is working for the Giants. All right, got to hit another break here on Game Day Recap. But when we come back, we talked about the 49ers injuries, why someone here on this panel has them as their loser for the week. We'll tell you next.